Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr is an open-world sandbox action RPG. In this video, we would like to introduce you to that vast sector where the agents of Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr are going to hunt down the foes of humankind. This is our persistent open sandbox world, the Caligari sector on the fringes of Segmentum Tempestus. It's an ancient region far from the light of Astronomicon, filled with shadows that shelter heretical ideas and dangerous Xenos. It's also a sector plagued by vicious warp surges, unpredictable, small warp storms that can cut off whole systems from the Imperium for a very long time, and as a consequence, they will slowly slide into corruption and barbarism. In other words, it's an extremely important hunting ground for the Inquisition. Inquisitor Martyr starts in one of the Subsectors, which is a rich and complex world to begin with, encompassing more than a dozen systems with huge numbers of planets and various points of interest. Since this is a persistent open-world sandbox, the starting region will be expanded in due course, as we unlock new subsectors one after another. The expansion also sees the progress of the ongoing storyline in the sector, which you can personally influence along with other members of the community, turning the sandbox into a dynamically changing world. The growing open world offers hundreds of hours of gameplay. One of the most fundamental elements of the design was to make the game constantly entertaining and challenging, in order to avoid the boredom of grinding and revisiting the same environments. This is exactly why we combined the idea of the open world sandbox with the concept of the randomly generated missions. It all begins with the objectives. You'll see all the available missions on the star map. Most of the standalone missions come with random generated objectives, drawing from a long list of possible assignments. There are more than 50 different mission types, which will include all the various tasks that Inquisitors could do in this universe. Sometimes a mission gives you clues that could lead to a new assignment. There will be specifically tailored missions as well, written separately and tied together with the help of special clues, and they form the so-called Grand Investigations. Not to mention the most special investigation of all, the single-player campaign, set in an abandoned fortress monastery, also accessible from the star map. From time to time, we are going to launch so-called seasons, which are free content patches, each with a very strong central theme. A season will introduce new enemy types, new conflicts, new investigations that fill out the background of the season. Seasons will run for a certain amount of time, and then they will be resolved, depending on how the Inquisitors of the Caligari Conclave decide on certain matters. The Conclave is an assembly of power groups with various goals. Player Inquisitors can also form cabals that can have their differences from time to time, which leads to clashes in the shadow. Inquisitor Martyr is an action RPG, so when you go on a mission, you'll enter an ARPG map. Our main goal is to provide diversity in the open world and offer hundreds of hours of gameplay without the feeling of repetition. To achieve this goal, we set out to create missions as randomly generated ARPG maps using pre-fabricated segments. Imagine these segments like the separate floorboard tiles in a board game that has constantly changing boards, unique for each session. Each environmental setting has a large pool of available tiles, and they represent very typical Warhammer 40k environments. Standard Imperial indoor settings, fortress monasteries, Gothic void stations, research facilities, factories, forge worlds, spaceships, you name it. By picking out various tiles and assembling them randomly, we can make sure that you don't have to fight through the same map again and again. Apart from the tiles, all settings have props that make the map unique, ranging from machines to atmospheric set pieces. And of course, your enemies will vary from map to map, as the different objectives require different foot soldiers and unique bosses. And these were just the indoor settings. You are also going to visit planets and moons, majestic or desolate landscapes, where the different terrain types and weather patterns give extra diversity to the gameplay. This is the vast open-world sandbox of Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr, where with the huge variety of maps, enemies and objectives, we set out to create an almost endless area with huge diversity. Welcome to the Caligari sector.